Hey guys, this is Frozen Things Stews here, and welcome back to another movie review. And today I'm gonna be doing a review on Fast X. So Fast X is the 10th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise. Well, if you count Hobbs and Shaw, then 11th Fast and Furious movie, and came out just very recently, a few days ago, and is directed by Louis Leterrier, who directed the painfully average Incredible Hulk, which is one of the weakest MCU movies, but it's not a bad movie though. And it stars a lot of people here. We got Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Jason Statham, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Nathaniel Emmanuel, Charlie Theron, John Cena, Song Kang, Helen Mirren, Scott Eastwood, and newcomers to this franchise who include Jason Momoa, Brie Larson, Alan Richardson, and Daniela Melchior. And oh yeah, and also Rita Moreno as well. So basically, the plot for Fast X, it tells a story of Dominus. It tells a story of Dominus' family or crew who are pretty much once again being having the past comment on them. This time it's from the past, specifically from Fast Five, they stole they stole a vault of money from the Brazilian drug lord, the Hernan Reyes, the villain in Fast Five. The film starts off with the film starts off with basically showing the scene in the high scene in Fast Five where Dom and Brian took the fault away. This time around, we have Dante included in it. Like Dante, the main villain in this current film. Like from what it means is basically that scene from Fast Five in the perspective of Dante. So it's very interesting that we actually get to see something like this on the big screen. I'll talk more about that scene later. And then going to present day, Dom is being warned by Cipher, who used to be a friend, but now is a foe. Who warns the main character, who warns Dom and Letty that Dante is coming from them, and so and yeah, so some of the crew members, specifically Ramsey Han, Tej and Roman, head to Rome for a mission that they thought that they were assigned. They thought there was nobody assigned them to do, but turns out it was actually a setup from Dante to get Dom to get Dom, and then they pretty much destroy Rome. They try to save Rome, but the plan kind of fails, and so they're all being seen as criminals, and this pretty much attracted this new secondary antagonist, Ames, played by Alan Richardson, who's going to be who's now targeting Dom and his crew after their activity in Rome. And Tess, played by Brie Larson, is trying to help Dom escape from Ames by giving him advice. And then the family suddenly gets separated by Dante to different countries. All thanks to Dante. We got one group now in London. Dom is on his own, trying to reach his family. While at the same time trying to find Dante, and Jacob rescues little Brian, Dom's son, to bring him to Dom, and to be able to keep him safe. And yeah, so yeah, the whole family is at risk now as Dante is going after them, and specifically they'll be and everyone else, and trying to give them stuff to set them up. And yeah, so yeah, they're pretty much faced with the biggest threat they've ever done. So yeah, I know that's a lot of plot, but that's pretty much the movie itself. This movie has a lot of plot, but at least it's enough for me to understand it. So yeah, I know Fast and Furious is currently one of the most hated franchises ever. People used to like this franchise, specifically with Fast Five until Seven, but when it came to Fast Eight, when it came to Fast and Furious 8, that was where the franchise started getting a lot of hate, and people are pretty much just done with this franchise. They're saying that this franchise has jumped the shark to me personally, I am not giving up on the Fast and Furious franchise yet. I still see them no matter what. I don't care what anyone else says. I have a soft spot for this franchise because as much as I like a plot to have a good story, a good story and good characters. I usually look for entertainment value in the film. I go to these movies for comfort. I go to these movies for entertainment. I go to these movies for escapism. Like there are some movies where I just need to like sit back and enjoy it and shove my popcorn down my throat and just turn on my brain and just enjoy the movie for what it is and not take it seriously. Yeah, Fast and Furious is one of those movies that franchises that's certainly not well made, but it's clearly made to entertain. Yeah, this is probably one of the most these Fast and Furious movies are some of the most entertaining movies I have ever seen. Period. Yeah, these movies are pretty much the definition of Taco Bell, like what Sean Chandler said. The term that Sean Chandler made up. They're Taco Bell movies. They're movies that are pretty much like eating junk food. Like it's not good, but you still enjoy them. Yeah, these movies. Yeah, they you can clearly tell their self awareness that they're dumb, but they have a lot of BS, but they're still like really entertaining, and I still really have a soft spot. But when it comes to this movie in particular, I mean, I actually had pretty high expectations. Mainly because of the trailer. I mean, specifically the first trailer. Wow, that I mean, I absolutely love the trailer. I mean, first of all, yeah. I mean, maybe I might have been brainwashed by the sound by the song because if you put replace that song with something else, probably like a song you hear in a typical Fast and Furious trailer, it wouldn't have felt the same. But I love the trailer not only because of the music, but because it actually looks like one of the best Fast and Furious movies. And so yeah, I was actually pretty excited for this movie. I mean, the first trailer was excellent, and this movie looks like it was gonna have stakes to it. It looks like it's gonna have a villain who's actually really good. And but from the trailer, I already knew that Jason Momoa would be the best villain, and everyone's already praising him. I'll talk more about Jason Momoa later on in this review. Later on in this review, and yeah, and also it looks like they're actually toning down the stupidity so that this film will, well, at least be better received than the first Fast and Furious movie. But yeah, I was really excited for this film, and then I saw it theaters earlier today. I saw this movie in cinemas, like in a Dolby Atmos cinema, and really good experience by the way. But how is the movie for itself? Yeah. Now, before I speak of that, let's talk about the reviews first, so I can like compare my opinion to the reviews. Yeah, sadly they're not good. I am really disappointed right now because I'm just sick of people hating this franchise. I think this, besides the MCU, Fast and Furious franchise is actually one of the most overly hated franchises. It's really overhated. I don't get the hate for this film. I think it's how do I say this I think people just don't get it. I know they're saying that they're doing too much Fast and Furious films and should have ended with seven, and this franchise is pretty much just the same. I would agree. This franchise is formulaic. I mean, you got a lot of cliches here. Like you got whenever a character dies, this character comes back to life. Whenever I mean, the vast majority of the Fast and Furious movies ends with the family gathering together for a meal and saying grace. I'm surprised that they didn't really say grace in this movie. I'm actually kind of surprised about that, by the way. But that's not really a flaw, nor a compliment. It's just a saying. But yeah, this movie is just as hated as F9, unfortunately. I mean, and F9 got some really toxic hate. You probably saw my F9 review defending that movie, saying that I'm one of the only people who actually likes F9, who actually understands that F9 is just like the rest, like actually being dumb, but actually being self-aware of it. But I mean, but honestly, I feel like people just hate on Fast X just because they hated Fast 9, and now they're just keep saying every new Fast and Furious movie is the worst one. So I bet they're gonna say Fast X. I hear some people saying that this is their least favorite Fast and Furious movie. So I bet they're hate it even more with these movies because they Fast X Part Two is one is bottom tier in the franchise is worse, and that Fast X Part Three will be the worst in the franchise. Well, fingers crossed that Fast X Part Two and Fast X Part Three will be far better received than Fast X ever was. But but judging the movie for myself for on my own without actually like you all probably know that I my opinions are always different from the general critical reception that I always have been disagreeing with critics lately. I've always had my beef with Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, I'm a nice guy when it comes to movies. I'm well because I support not just well written and well made movies, but also movies that are actually entertaining as well. And Fast X to me absolutely delivered in what I want in a Fast and Furious movie. Yeah, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's dumb, it makes no sense. Like there's no clear direction to the plot. It's just mostly setting up Fast X Part Two, and I love it for those. I love a good old movie that's not well made, but it just wants you to have fun. And this movie was absolutely epic. I mean, it is just so epic. And I really had an absolute blast watching this movie in theaters. Like it was just so much fun, and probably the best experience I've had for a Fast and Furious movie. And yeah, I don't see the hate for this one. I think this movie, if you love Fast and Furious and you love and you love this movie for being dumb fun, then at least this movie deserves far more support because I take Fast and Furious movies that are ridiculous over Fast and Furious movies that are just about boring street racing because who cares. Yeah, this movie is just really good. And honestly, I'll go for saying this is my new favorite Fast and Furious movie. Yep, I think this might be my favorite Fast and Furious movie. Yeah, I know recency bias and I know yeah Furious Seven. I wasn't sure this. I didn't think this will be top here. I didn't think this would top Furious Seven as my favorite, but it actually did. Now maybe I'm just probably judging it based on experience. Like there's been a lot of instances where I would just really praise the movie on first viewing, but then second viewing I actually like okay it's not as good as first viewing and I don't love it as much, but I still love it. Maybe this one I probably would admit that there are better Fast and Furious movies than this, but maybe that could happen and Furious Seven could get back its helm, could go back to being my favorite. But right now, Fast X is currently my favorite in the franchise, just solely based on theatrical, solely based on the experience watching this movie. Like this is literally the Infinity War of Fast and Furious, and it clearly shows. It clearly shows that this is pretty much the biggest one yet. The biggest Fast and Furious. Maybe it doesn't have the most action scenes in the franchise, but yeah, all the action scenes are really big and epic in scale. And yeah, and this movie actually does feel like Infinity War. The story structure is very similar to Infinity War, where we get characters being together for until this certain battle in a certain place, and this action scene will get the group separated, and then we see the groups in different missions like trying to find their way back, and having different ideas to be able to stop a villain. Yeah, a single villain like a villain in the center, like with Dante, like all the characters in this one are trying to stop Dante. Just like in Infinity War, where all the characters are separated, planning on how they should stop Thanos. And speaking of the villain, I gotta talk about Dante because even though people are hating on this movie, I guess we can all agree that Dante is the best Fast and Furious villain and the best character in the movie. I'm glad that there's something in this movie that people can praise about it. Dante, yeah. Jason Momoa is already becoming one of my favorite villain actors just by one villain role he played, and we definitely deserve more Jason Momoa villain roles. Yeah, Jason Momoa absolutely knocking it out of the park. This is his best role by far, and even my dad agrees that Jason Momoa would be more fit to playing villain roles than hero of roles. And I'm even more excited to see Jason Momoa as Lobo in James Gunn DCU. That has been rumored for a long time, ever since James Gunn announced it. Yeah, it's been rumored, and I gotta say, bring on Jason Momoa's Lobo, I'm sure he'd knock it out of the park more than he did with Aquaman. Yeah, Jason Momoa seems probably gives one of the best performances in this in this movie, and probably one of the best performances in the franchise. You can clearly see how Jason Momoa really how to say it, you can clearly see how much energy and how much fun Momoa puts into his franchise. And yeah, Dante feels like an absolute threat to everyone. He feels like he's such a menace, and he's easily the he's by far the best Fast and Furious villain. I love this guy. Yeah. And he's certainly in my top five favorite villains of the year thus far. You know, right up there with Quinn Bailey from Scream Six, uh, High Evolutionary, Kinda Conqueror, and Bowser. As one of my favorite villains of the year thus far. And yeah, yeah, Dante actually and he's actually a major threat, and he's actually the smartest villain too. I mean, he's really smart. His tactics are brilliant. Jason Momoa is just such a brilliant villain, such a brilliant, fun Joker-like villain who literally put and dangerous the family more than any other villain though. And also like as much as these villains would constantly just redeem themselves, which is one of the cliches in the franchise. One of the franchise cliches. I certainly see no sympathy in Jason Momoa's villain, and I certainly hope that he stays a villain and not redeem himself he because we deserve to have an irredeemable villain in the franchise who's memorable, because pretty much the most memorable characters in the franchise are always have a redemption arc, and we need one who's just just an all out villain who again is irredeemable. But as much as some people say that Jason Momoa is the only good thing about this film, I think there are there are other things to love about this film besides just Momoa. But I agree with everyone else what they're saying about Momoa. Um, but yeah, everyone else in this film, like there are lot of things to love about this film. Yeah, let's talk about the action scenes. Wow, the action scenes. I'm debating if I should say that this has the best action scenes. It's because you got scenes with like in Fear Seven, like the car jump like that. So it's debatable. But I'm actually trying to well, never mind. Well, I don't know what I'm saying, but the action in this movie is also really good. And I mean, it's actually really tough for me to decide which is which is the best action scene in this movie. The best action scene in this movie. I would say it's either the fight scene in Rome, or the final battle with the final battle. It's either one of those two. That's my favorite scene. And but yeah, this movie doesn't this movie is actually not as absurd. Yeah, to those people who complain about this franchise trying to go way too far with its absurdity and stupidity. Thankfully, you'll be impressed to hear that Fast X actually tones down the stupidity to Fast 6 and 7 levels. Yeah, where it's not really as stupid as Fast 9 F9, but it's certainly it's still dumb, but in a good way. It still maintains what I love about Fast and Furious. I mean, you got scenes like the final battle where Dom pretty much drives his car going down the bridge, like that was really cool. And yeah, Dom driving his car and going down the bridge. Realistically, the car can't really hold on to the bridge. It'll just legit fall. But the fact that car is actually able to drive down the bridge like that, is able to keep holding the bridge. That's probably the stupidest that this movie has done. And it's not like not like the part where they go to space in F9. In F9, even though I don't mind them going to space, I enjoy that. But where do I go? Where do I go from there? Yeah, and also there is also this scene when other ridiculous moments, like when Dom like in the highway scene, you probably saw in the trailer when Dom crashes two helicopters at the same time with a car, like really good. And those helicopters were still flying, by the way. Yeah, that was awesome. And also there's how do I say this oh yeah, also in the Rome scene with a bomb, and they're all like trying to get the bomb off, and even like having cars that being controlled, being and automated, drive itself. It's very similar to Fate of Furious, but I think it's done better here in my opinion. So yeah, there's like such really awesome action scenes here, and even some really hand to hand. There's some great hand to hand combats too. Like Dom versus Dom versus Dante, like there was this really good hand-to-hand combat. There was a small fight between Letty and Cypher, who you saw in the trailer. So the trailer is not as good as that fight scene was not as good as what I saw in the trailer, but it's still really good. And of course, you got the prologue action scene where they show the highways chasing in Fast Five. But to be honest, guys, I've been saying it now. I think this movie did that high scene from Fast Five told this movie is better than how it was in the actual Fast Five movie. I mean the cinematography, the shots, and the fact that it looks way more modern now. I mean but at the same time, I mean Dom and Brian still look like their old self. I mean Brian looks so realistic. You would think that Brian would get CGI in that scene, but they looks like they actually reused the same footage and modernized it. Yeah, and like I said, it's very interesting that they told that prologue, that scene in Jason Momoa's in Dante's point of view, to set up the kind of villain Dante is, where he just wants revenge for killing his father. And for just a villain with a very generic kind of revenge story, it works so well because there's so much thing to like about him. Like so much things he does that really makes him so hateable. And villains are supposed to be hateable, by the way. Yeah, Dante is just not he's such a menace. Like he's really that evil. Like he's next level evil. Like in Rome, what he did in Rome, where he pretty much made Rome explode. Like had a bomb on the Rome and had it explode, and then have everyone blame Dom and his family for that. Yeah, that's how smart and manipulative Dante is. Like he actually wants the team to be seen as criminals. That's his whole plan. So he tries to set them up and tries to give them missions where he can make them look like criminals. Yeah. That's how much of a threat he is. And then there was a street racing scene. Yeah, there's a scene where they actually go back to the old Fast and Furious movie, street racing. Yeah, sure. It only happened for like 2 minutes in the movie, but that's fine. That's totally okay with me. But at least there's a street racing that felt like it was the first film all over again. This time with Dante, actually, with Dante literally cheating, like he literally he literally threw a bomb on like he literally had bombs on two cars, two of his competitors, just so he can test Dom to see to choose who he can save. Yeah, that's pretty much how that's where Dante draws the line for me, when he asked Dom who is he gonna choose to save, because he can only Dante says that Dom can only save one person in his life, and yeah, it really put him in the test. And man, Dante never gives up. Yeah. I also want to talk about the other villain, Ames, played by Alan Richardson, who I personally did not expect that he would be a villain. I thought he was just gonna be Tess's Brie Larson's right hand man or something, but I did not expect him to be a villain at all. Usually when it comes to these Fast and Furious movies, the secondary antagonist would be really dull. Like for example, Otto in F9, he was the secondary villain, and my God, he's I stand by calling him the worst Fast and Furious villain. He's just really obnoxious, really annoying. And he really infuriates me. And yeah, and also Herman was actually kind of the secondary villain. Luke Hobbs is supposedly the main villain, and Herman was not good. Yeah, Dante was far better than Herman. Dante is pretty much what Herman should have been. And Fast is also like Fast Six with Gina Carano's character. She's a secondary villain, and pretty much I like Gina Carano for most of the movie until it was revealed that she was actually working for Owen Shaw the whole time with no explanation as to why she's doing it. Personally, I think yeah, but for the first time, the secondary villain is actually good. Definitely not as good as Dante, but he's really good as a villain, and he's actually very similar to Gina Carano, like the male version of Gina Carano, but done right. They actually explain why he's a villain. They actually explain why Alan Richardson is actually a villain. Turns out he's actually assigned. He actually worked for Herman Reyes, and he assigned and Herman assigned Ames to be partners with Dante, and so they both can work together to go after Don's family. And then Ames disguised himself as a cop, as an agent, like a Mr. Nobody, like a rip off. Like Ames at first, Ames seemed like a Luke House ripoff, like a ripoff of Lucas from Fast Five. But I mean, but the only difference, but no, there's a major difference later on. Luke Hobbs actually became a foe in the end, while in this movie, Alan Richardson, what became a villain, going after Dom, and then going after Dom, and then Dom. How do I say this? And then, Ames becomes a quote unquote good guy at one point, but then it turns out he's really a villain this whole time. Absolutely, and actually working with Dante. And what he did was he actually blew up the ship with Ramsey, Han, Tej, and Roman, all of them on the ship, and then it crashed where you'd expect them to die. Of course, not dead. I'm very sure they probably escaped. Like, they probably escaped. Yeah. And yet, this movie is mostly set up to This movie is just mostly a setup to Fast X Part Two, and I know like people don't like it when movies rely too heavily on setting up and being setups for future movies. I actually don't mind this movie being a setup because it's still part one, so of course not everything made sense in the plot in a way. And yeah, this movie just entirely was just a setup, and even the ending was a setup. I'll say the ending for last because I really need to save that for last for a reason. Let's talk about the other characters. There is a lot of characters here, and I mean a lot. And I would say 85% of them actually work, like got their time to shine. The old characters for the most part are really good. You got you got Dom. Dom, Jacob, Mia, Ramsey, Tej, Roman, Deckard Shaw. Actually the ones who kind of shine here. I think I forgot someone, but did I say Jacob? Oh well, yeah, Jacob as well. And of course, little Brian. Yeah, there's some really great characters too. And even though they're separated, you still have a lot of fun because they have really good chemistry together. I mean, they have really good chemistry together. I mean, both Roman and Tej had such a perfect chemistry. Like yeah. I mean, they're both really perfect. Have a perfect friendship together. Roman was really relatable in this one. I actually related to Roman. Like I desperately want to be a leader when it comes to groupings in my groups, but then I get rejected and saying, oh, I'm gonna be a bad leader. I think I should be instead, and like that. Someone else will say that, but now they've actually learned to accept me as a leader, and yeah, that's why I literally straight up saw myself in Roman's character. And also even like them with Ramsey and Han, yeah, the four of them had really good chemistry, and even Deckard Shaw had like, and by the way, speaking of that, this movie is also pretty much not just an action but a comedy. If you thought that Hobbs and Shaw is the funniest, well, technically Hobbs and Shaw is still the funniest, but this is the funniest Fast and Furious movie since Hobbs and Shaw, and there are some really good comedy too, like when that guy in Shaw's punching bag literally runs out naked. Yeah, it was hilarious, and also speaking of that, yeah, that fight scene in Shaw's in Shaw's room or whatever you call that. Was that a prison or something? Or a house? That scene also had really good action scene, but it was shown in the trailer. And I just realized every single action scene was shown in the trailer. That's interesting. So yeah, this movie did have a moment of having slow pace in the middle, and there wasn't really that much action in the middle. But let me tell you right now, don't let that affect your thoughts in it because there was not a single boring scene in here. Like, not a single boring scene. And going back to chemistry, if those four chemistry between those four characters is not enough, I mean, Jacob and Lil Brian probably had the best chemistry. Seeing them together, it's actually just puts a smile on my face. Like, Jacob and Lil Brian are working together to escape the plane. To get away from their airplane in a major that kind of ripped off No Time to Die. Basically, it's like in No Time to Die where James Bond and Nomi were on a jet plane and escaping from a big plane with the jet plane, a small jet plane. Yeah, they literally copied Fast. They literally copied Fast X with that. They copied No Time to Die with that scene. And of course, Cannon cars. But like literally, Lil Dom just blows up half of Dante's ship. Wow, Lil Brian probably might be the most badass kid I have ever seen. Well, no, wait, scratch it. The most badass kid since Hit Girl because no kid can be just as badass as Hit Girl. Can be more badass than Hit Girl from Kick-Ass. Let's be real here. But yeah, what's just there? Yeah, their chemistry is really good. Also, Dom is also a really good character, despite that he pretty much had no partner. He was just going around beating, being with different kinds of people, and there was no one with him. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Dom, just John's Blanc trying to find Dante as well. Really enjoyed that. And yeah, and also yeah, the new characters. Well, besides Dante and Ames, I've talked about them. So I'm referring to the new characters. Like Isabel and Tesla. Yeah, let's talk about those two. Isabel is really good. I mean, she's played by the same actress as Ratcatcher 2 for the Suicide Squad, and even Pete Davidson who played Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad made a cameo too. I bet they put him in this movie just because Daniela Melchior is also in this one. I mean, they literally set her up to be a top 10 Fast and Furious character. I love the way that they set her up. She was like really good, and it's really interesting that she was actually originally with Dante. They were both love interests until Dante literally just blew up her car, and yeah, they both. And then she literally feels ashamed for not being as good as Elena. Yeah, she is the sister of Elena. I mean, really good character where she gets jealous that she's the worst, that she's not as good as Elena. Yeah. And yeah, I really felt her character arc in this one. Really well written character, even if she has very small screen time. And then there is Brie Larson says, who the marketing of this film, like pretty much the marketing of this film made her one of the more major characters, like major one of the main characters. No, she doesn't have as much screen time as the trailer makes it out to be. She only had very little screen time, but don't yeah, I mean, don't let that affect your thoughts in the movie, Harry Thomas. I mean, there's some great stuff in here. There's some great stuff in here. At least Brie Larson is in this movie, and she was decent for the most part, better than Captain Marvel. But I would have expected a tad bit more from her. But at least she's still a badass. I mean, especially in that bar scene where she fought off a bunch of guys randomly, and yeah, and although she did get hurt, I think good thing Tess didn't die because I don't want Harry Thomas to hate this movie just because of the killing of Brie Larson's character. At least a certain character appeared in the ending, which I'm almost getting there. Yeah, I'm almost getting there, and yeah, pretty much. Actually, no, I'm gonna talk about it right now. Let's talk about the ending. Yeah, that cliffhanger. Yeah, there's this now yeah minor spoilers for this scene. So if you don't wanna watch this if you don't want to go forward, well, yeah, too bad. Well, to be honest, guys, well, let me tell you right now, you don't really need to well, yeah, fine. I won't spoil what happens in a specific scene, but there's a scene where you don't find a spoiler. Who cares? Anyway, it's Fast and Furious. You don't need spoilers. So these types of movies. You just because you're just in to have fun. But yeah, the ending is pretty much where this movie pretty much had two endings. The first ending was where you know was when Dom and little Brian made it down the cliff after pulling up the most ridiculous scene moment in this movie. But then Dante there were still bombs around, and Dante's like, let's see how I can survive this. He pulls the trigger of the bomb, like bombs surrounding Brian and like around Brian and no Tom and little Brian, and then cameras fade. So you wonder how are Dom and little Brian gonna survive the explosions, the big explosions. I wonder how. Of course, they'll probably pull off a ridiculous stunts, but whatever. And of course they'll survive as well. But yeah. But the real ending of this movie is actually the best scene in the film, in my opinion. The best scene in the film. Yeah, the best scene in the film is basically where Letty and Cypher. And by the way, Cypher was such a surprise. She was much better than in F9. Hated her in F9. Really liked her in this one, but yeah. Letty and Cypher were in Antarctica, and then we see this submarine floating up, and guess who was in the submarine? Yep, Gal Gadot, Giselle, my favorite Fast and Furious character ever. Yeah, Harry Thomas. This is probably why Brie Larson should not affect your thoughts on the movie, because at least Gal Gadot is in this one, and even though Gal Gadot's Giselle was only in the ending, I mean that's like still seeing Giselle in this movie gave me chills and goosebumps down my neck and stuff. I was beyond overjoyed to see Gal Gadot in this movie. It was so good to see her in this one, and I really missed her. And yeah, I love Gal Gadot. One of her better performance. Now I do prefer her in Red Notice, Sarah Black in Red Notice, and of course Wonder Woman in the DCU, which is her unbeatable performance. But unless Gal Gadot joins the MCU, maybe she'll make a better performance than Wonder Woman in the MCU. But Gal Gadot in this movie, my God, yeah, and yeah, those two endings right there made me really hyped for Fast X Part 2 and Part 3. Yeah, now I am hyped for Fast X Part 2. It's in my top 10 most Disney movies of 2025 list. Yeah, I'm excited to see where the franchise goes from there. Yeah, where the franchise goes from there. Well, top 5 most Disney movies 2025. We'll see what other movies will come out that year, because 2025 is my most anticipated year. So I'm expecting a lot more anticipated movies in that year. But yeah, fast. Yeah, the ending. But I am hyped for those two films. So yeah. Now I will say that this movie is not 100% perfect. There was one minor flaw I had in the film. One thing I was personally underwhelmed by, and that is Letty. You probably know I'm a huge fan of Letty. She's one of my favorite Fast and Furious characters. One of my absolute favorites. Whenever Giselle is not on screen, Letty steals the show. But unfortunately though, this was one of Letty's weakest appearances. I was not a fan of Letty in this one. Now where do I even start with this? First of all, she was not badass. Yeah, she didn't really do anything badass. All she did was just in that romance scene was just ride on a motorcycle and ride on the motorcycle and even get a chance to fight or even shoot someone. So I'm a little disappointed by that. But most of the time she's just in prison, and you only see her up here for 2 seconds, and she has like 4 little screen time. So yeah, hopefully Fast X Part 2, Letty will be much better, and yeah, we'll get to see more of her for sure since she's finally out of prison. But at least give her something badass to do. And even in her fight with Cypher, I found nothing from yeah, I feel like there was not enough girl power in Letty. So yeah, really disappointed with Letty. But that's pretty much my only complaint with this film. So overall, Fast X is my favorite in the franchise thus far. Yeah, sure, it's not perfect due to one underwhelming character, and I promise one underwhelming character who deserves who never really got a lot of time to shine in this film. But This movie is everything you want from Fast and Furious. I mean, there's so much to say, so much characters, so much action, and this pretty much has the biggest stakes in the entire franchise. This truly is the Infinity War of the Fast and Furious, and the ending may be a little controversial, but I think the ending like really made me glad, really made me hyped for what's next to come. So yeah, and this is certainly the most underrated Fast and Furious movie, and probably the most underrated movie of the year, alongside Quantumania and Fear of the Gods. So with that said, I'm gonna give Fast X a 9 out of 10, a high one. Hopefully, Fast X Part 2 will be the first Fast and Furious movie to get a 10 out of 10. Yeah, this franchise needs a 10 out of 10 rating at some point. So for my review of Fast X, what is your opinion on this movie? Do you agree with me that this is the best Fast and Furious movie, or do you not care about this movie? And what is your favorite Fast and Furious movie? Comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my ranking of the Fast and Furious movies from worst to best. So yeah, bye guys.